We're literally seeing an epidemic of these issues in the United States right now.
Dr. Robert Melillo is the co-founder of Brain Balance Centers.
1 out of every 10 children in the United States now is diagnosed with ADHD, and that's a real increase.
My name is Dr. Robert Melillo. My life's mission is to help kids and families with special needs. My wife, Carolyn, makes it all possible. Welcome to our family.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show. I'm Dr. Robert Melillo, and this is my beautiful wife, Carolyn. Let's start the show by talking about what's in the headlines. And again, there's 2 really neat articles, especially this week. One actually talks about that older fathers are much more likely to have a child with ADHD, autism, or schizophrenia or psychosis.
Which is surprising because you think once a woman gets pregnant, basically, you know, it's the woman's job to carry the child for 9 months, and pretty much you just have a genetic transfer from the father. But you're saying that it's not genetic, it's environmental from the father.
One of the things that this tells us is that there are environmental factors. There's all these risk factors. These are the things I went through in my most recent book. But this actually showed what was really neat is that fathers who are over 46 compared to fathers that were 24, they actually had a 300% increased risk of having a child with autism,
wow,
a 1,300% increased risk of having a child with ADHD, and a 2,400% increased risk of having a child with some sort of psychosis or schizophrenia.
Interesting, but I know that there's an age, your actual age, and then there's an age that...
Right, the real age.
The real age.
So yeah, so that's the important thing is that we, you know, it doesn't mean that older fathers shouldn't have kids, but it has to do with health, right? So the other article that's really neat is that girls have more resilient brains. And that's why when we look at autism, 4 out of 5 children with autism are boys. And we know that there's 5 times more boys than girls with ADHD. And now this study showed scientific evidence that girls' brains are more resilient from ADHD and autism.
But why is that? Is it because the boy's brain starts out as a girl's brain? I know I heard something about that. Can you explain that?
Yeah, well actually, one of the reasons why we think it is because in the womb, when the right brain is developing, what we see is that what most people don't know, and you probably know this, but that the basic platform of the brain and the body starts out as a female.
Right.
We all start out as girls, even if we have an X or Y chromosome. But a male brain and body has to be turned into a male, and that's by the hormones the mother produces. And if there's an imbalance in estrogen or testosterone, that can cause a problem. And actually, increased stress in the environment actually causes women to have more testosterone.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yes. We have a really neat video that we showed here, and this is a perfect example of how certain children with disabilities have this unevenness of skills. So we're going to look at this, this video of this young boy from Kenya. See, the thing about this that's interesting is that this boy does not speak.
Right.
He has no words, but he can sing and sings pretty beautifully, right? So that's what we see is this unevenness of skills. And so what we see is that speaking is one side of the brain and singing is the other side of the brain. So we see that all these children have these imbalances between the right and left side of the brain, and that's why working on the weak side actually creates the balance that can, you know, make things better.
Wow. Okay, let's go to a Twitter to Dr. Rob. We have from L. Schumann73. Do you recommend therapy for the families too? We have very different needs as families who deal without support of our needs too. What do you think about that?
Absolutely true. That's one of the reasons why we have this show is to speak to the special needs community. But yes, we do recommend that people do therapy, but sometimes it's hard for them to do a lot of these therapies together. So that's why I wrote the book Reconnected Kids.
Right.
Because Reconnected Kids is really a family program. It's a family empowerment program, and it actually is something that they can use, and I think they'll find very helpful. So when we come back, we're going to sit down with Dr. David Shapiro from local Brain Balance Center, who discusses the issues of the epidemic of autism and you know, why that may be happening. So we're going to be back here at the break, and we'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Dr. Rob Show. Joining me now to discuss the epidemic proportions of children on the neurodevelopmental spectrum is the director from the Brain Balance Center in Glassboro, New Jersey, and Wayne, Pennsylvania, Dr. David Shapiro. Thank you, David, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
So, there is this epidemic. I talk about it in my book, that clearly there is an epidemic rise. When you look at the numbers, we went from 30 years ago, we had 1 in 10,000 children were diagnosed with autism. We're now at 1 in 88, actually even some believe 1 in 50. We've seen this dramatic increase, and it's out there, it's prevalent, and we know that we see this all the time with children. One of the things about that I talk about in my book is that it really has to do with lifestyle changes. It's really not so much chemicals in the environment, it's really lifestyle changes like diet and exercise. So we know that there's a big difference in lifestyle now versus when we were kids, right?
Absolutely. I talk to parents about it all the time, and we're all kind of about the same age. I have young children myself. And what I talk to them all the time about is, what did you and I do when we were little kids? And we talk about, wiffle ball outside and playing tag, and I learned recently about pine cone wars. Parents from South Jersey all talk about pine cone wars, and I didn't do that.
Well, that's a South Jersey thing, because we didn't do that on Long Island. I can
Very
tell
good.
You.
But the whole idea of running around and chasing each other and playing tag,
riding
and
bikes,
getting dirty, skinning your knees.
Yes.
Right, all that.
We were kids, we were outside all day. So why are children not as physically active? And the two things that we can point out is, one is that both parents are working more than when we were growing up, so that they're more with daycare centers or maybe grandma and grandpa who don't want to let them outside. It's harder. But the other thing is that people are afraid. They're afraid to let their children out because we perceive, true or not, that the world is more dangerous because we see it more.
Right.
And so we often see as technology is becoming the babysitter.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a big problem with parents. And one of the things that we talk about in Brain Balance right off the bat is we get them off of that technology.
Very much so. And it's amazing how much time the kids spend on their different screens over the course of a day. Is that the average is 6.5 hours?
Yes, even more than that when you look at all screen times with phones and things like that. So the important thing is, what is, not moving, not exercising, and being addicted to technology, what does that do to the brain during development? And we know that the most important aspect of brain development is movement. So if a child isn't moving, they're literally not growing their brain. And in the womb, in the first 2-3 years of life, it's really the right side of the brain that's growing. And when it doesn't grow, this is ADHD, this is autism, this is these other things.
No question.
So we find that, we work a lot with the primitive reflexes with these children and get them movement, right? You find that the exercises at home are really helpful as well.
Very important. And like you said, the movement is the driver for the brain in the early years. And they still have these primitive reflexes that I learned from you, really all about the baby reflexes, that they still have them at 10 years old and 12 years old. And like you said, there's specific exercises to make those improve and go away. And they help the behavior of the child. It's remarkable.
And if they have those reflexes, I always say it's like keeping the brain in suspended animation. It doesn't really go to the next level or stage of development. And this is why children don't crawl, or they skip crawling, or they crawl in an unusual way, or they walk in a delayed level, or that they have different problems with, sucking reflexes. And so that's an important aspect, and those are really relatively easy. I mean, those are simple exercises we give the parents that they're able to do at home without any problem, right?
Right, no special equipment. It's really just about being consistent with those exercises at home to see those changes, and it's remarkable.
And what's important is that really it's important that the parents also get involved with this, because what we find is that, a lot of the reason why children are more sedentary is because adults are more sedentary. We always say all the time, I say in the book, if you're fat and lazy and depressed and unhealthy, you're not going to have a child that's dynamic and going to be successful and happy. It can't happen. You have to set the example.
No question. So the best thing we can do is have families move together, exercise together.
Right. So that's why we get them to do the exercise, especially when the dad gets involved with doing the exercise with the boys.
Right. Push-ups and sit-ups.
Yeah.
Right.
And just that makes a big difference. When a child gets stronger, it's huge what it does to their brain.
No question. Core muscles.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Dr. Shapiro, again, you were in practice for 19 years and you actually decided to open a Brain Balance Center because you felt it was that important for your community. You have 2 now, and that's great. And those are located in Wayne and also in Glassboro.
Correct.
Here. And you're happy with what's going on with that?
It's wonderful. because you get into practice to help people and see a difference, and we're seeing changes unbelievable, night and day. And I know we're going to talk with one of our parents that's going to just talk about the results, and we're seeing it so consistently, whether it's learning challenges or behavior challenges, this autism spectrum that we're talking about. The changes are fantastic.
Yes.
Without drugs.
And as a matter of fact, you know, you lead in at the other side of the break. We're going to meet the father of a daughter named Addison who had academic challenges and led him to seek help at your center. And we'll hear the story when we come back. And it's a beautiful story of hope and inspiration. So we'll return after the break and we'll hear from Addison. I want to thank Dr. Shapiro for being with us today. And if you want to know more about his center, go to brainbalancecenters.com. Thank you. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Rob Malillo. I'm joined by my wife, Carolyn, and by Brett Wolven. Brett's daughter, Addison, has had some issues with digestion and healthcare issues, and turns out was causing her to struggle academically as well. So why don't you tell us about Addison, first of all, when you first became aware of it and what her main issues were?
Addison had several issues with digestion and different female problems, urinary tract infection, kidney infections, through the ages of like 1, 2, 2.5. Multiple different doctors ended up leading to surgery in regards to that, as far as digestion goes.
So it first started out as more chronic healthcare issues.
Yes.
And then later on, you found that she had some struggles with school as well.
Yes. When she, made it to first grade, it became evident that there were some problems with her reading comprehension. Math whiz, but definitely had problems taking the written word and acknowledging what it meant.
So she had this unevenness of skills that we typically see.
Yeah.
And now you've been to many, many doctors with her. Had anybody ever suggested some kind of dietary change?
Through all the programs and processes, there wasn't a single professional that actually suggested changing Addison's diet in any way, to be honest with you.
So when you became aware of what we were doing in my work, Brain Balance, how did you become aware of that?
Through a business networking organization. I met one of the woman who worked at the center, and weekly she was telling success stories of the different children going through the center. And I became interested in it, with everything going on with Addison. It just kind of seemed like a different approach.
Right.
So, convinced the wife to give it a shot.
Okay, great. So once you started that, one of the things that they did was obviously put her on a special diet and eliminate certain foods. And you saw positive changes right away, right?
Fairly quickly. I mean, the immediate reaction was quite significant. The week-to-week change was something that was really surprising. We didn't expect to see such significant changes week to week as we did over such a short period of time.
And what were the changes that you were seeing?
Right off the bat, the digestive issues, the lingering digestive issues kind of began to fall away. She was quite emotional. She had tendencies to go off emotional tangents at times, get quite dramatic. That became less. For lack of a better phrase, she was quite clumsy. And she began right off the bat to get some better control over her own body.
Wow.
For being tall for her age, it was one of those things that just kind of, you saw it just over week by week.
And did you see changes in her academics?
She went through the program over the course of the summer, so we could eliminate the problem of conflict with school. But if I went from first grade, November first grade year, she was B/C student, really struggling with comprehension. She's in second grade now. It's actually why she couldn't join us today. She's in school. But second grade year, same month, A/B student, strong, still a math whiz, but everything seems to have jumped at least 3 grade levels.
Wow.
And her reading levels, where she was several levels behind, because they work everything in reading levels, she actually is up to the point where she's 2 levels above her grade level.
That's fantastic.
That's huge. That's actually like a 4 or 5 year change in a matter of a few months. How many months was Addison in the program?
Addison was in the 12-week program, so it was 3 months.
So only 3 months. Wow. Because really the majority of our kids go through more 6 months, but that's absolutely incredible changes. And how did she do with the dietary changes? Was she okay with that?
I think any family, whenever you try to change a diet, it's something that's fairly significant in the family. But the whole family got involved in it.
That's great.
We have
That's
a
so
younger
important.
daughter too. So it was, my
So
younger
everybody
daughter
did
was
it
eating.
together. That's
it
so
kinda
important not
pulled
to
all-
single
all
them
things
out.
together. And there were some things that didn't make it back to the table. It's just you find that one thing that really, because as through the program, when you're reintroducing the problem items, there were a couple things that really kind of tripped her off. So it's obviously we're not going to reintroduce those or bring them back into the house anymore.
But you did find that it was doable, and it was challenging, but you could do it, and you recommend that to other families and parents.
Honestly, I think in any parents, especially when you're raising more than one child, any change is going to be a challenge to any family out there. But change is where growth happens.
Beautiful.
Well, we want to thank you very much for being with us today and telling us the story about Aniston. Be inspirational. We want to also be able to go, because when we come back, we want you to stay with us, because coming up next, Carolyn and I will show you some foods that you may want to keep out of your child's lunchbox and others that you might want to stock up on. And we'll be right back, and we'll see you right after the break. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Dr. Rob Show. I'm Dr. Rob Malillo. Joining me is my beautiful wife, Carolyn, and also our friend, Amelia. As we just talked about in our last segment with Aniston's father, Brett, a child's diet is a huge part of his or her life. So we are here to break down some good versus bad digestion foods. When we really talk about digestion issues, what we're talking about, something that's very common in special needs community, is what we call leaky gut, where they have problem breaking down certain proteins. The most common ones are gluten and casein. Gluten is from wheat, barley, and rye, and casein is from dairy products.
And do they have a problem because that part of their brain is understimulated? Is that why it connects to the gut and it doesn't absorb food easily?
Yeah, that's part of it. And again, in future episodes, we're going to go through why it's so much prevalent, why food sensitivities are so much more prevalent in this community than in typical children.
Sure, sure.
But there is a difference. Most people don't understand the difference between allergies and food sensitivities.
Right, I think people think they're the same thing. So
Right.
what is the difference between an allergy and a food sensitivity, which is much more prevalent in children with special needs?
Yeah, what we find is that the children that we work with, basically 10% or less than 10% actually have food allergies, like peanut or what you traditionally look at as food allergies. But 85% or more have food sensitivities, and gluten and dairy are the most, and casein are the most common ones. So
All right.
what we, in the future also, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to test for these. But right off the bat, a lot of parents don't even want to do
No
things.
problem, no problem.
A lot of parents don't even want to
down.
try it because they're so afraid that they're not going to be able to do it, because the modern diet, the American diet, is almost all
Okay, babe.
wheat
Wait,
and dairy.
let's let her taste this
Okay.
dairy-free yogurt. She has been so good. You taste that and you tell me how you like it. Let's see, Amelia is the best taster in the world.
Absolutely. Bottom line comes to whether they're going to actually eat it or not, or whether they like
How do you like that? Yeah. No.
Doesn't
Okay,
taste
no
good?
problem.
Let's try
go.
another one. Here, try this one. Let's try this one. Ready? Try this. Ready? Here we go. Try that one.
Oh, she's so daring.
Is that good?
Oh, I don't know. I think you like that.
Well, the good thing
Yeah,
is we
you
have
know
different
what?
options.
We have different
and so
options.
what we're showing here is that this is actually soy yogurt, this is actually almond yogurt, and this is actually coconut milk yogurt. So a lot of parents, yogurt is the main thing that they give to their children. They like to bring it to school, put it in their snacks. And so there are different options out there. And Carol and I just went to Whole Foods yesterday, and we had fun, actually.
Strawberry before.
But maybe they have strawberry, and I'm sure they have strawberry.
They do have strawberry. They
Right.
have all different flavors and all different tastes. But what we see is that same thing with milk. We have soy milk, we have almond milk, we have rice milk, we have coconut milk. For cream cheese, we have different veggie cream cheese and soy cream cheese. We have butter substitutes, and there's all different cheeses. So in the dairy end of it, we have a lot of different things covered, and we also have the gluten issues.
And we also have gluten-free Oreos. Oh,
That obviously
what
she
did
likes.
she say?
See?
She said, And what about, do you like rice? This is delicious. Gluten-free, rice-free rice cakes, just like your mom used to make with a marshmallow. You want to try that?
Oh,
it's hard to-
once you gave her the Oreo, she's Cookie Monster.
But
Are
there
you
are
Cookie
options.
Monster?
Instead of giving
Okay.
your children cookies and things like that. There are options. There are lots of different flavored popcorns. There are chips that have no gluten whatsoever. My daughter loves these gluten-free pretzels. They are absolutely delicious. So, what
And
happens, sweetheart?
baking issues is one of the biggest things, and bread. I mean, that bread actually, if you feel that bread, if you hold up that bread, it really feels like a regular piece of white bread. And,
wanna take a bite?
and again, it actually tastes really good. Doesn't that feel normal? Doesn't that feel like bread? I think it feels just like regular bread.
Listen,
but
sweetie
the
pie,
point
try
is
one of these.
that we can also bake these things themselves. The different flours, like that's a quinoa flour over there. This is actually to be able to use flours and
Brownies.
mix for brownies, for cookies, for
Brownies.
pizza dough. There's all different types of options for
There
people
is
out there.
for chicken. There's
That's-
a bread covering for chicken that's
Breadcrumbs
fantastic.
that really are made out of gluten-free
I
breadcrumbs.
love these rice chips.
Oh, you have the popcorn,
The
and that's
popcorn's
very good, of
excellent,
course.
and it is. Kids don't need to have cookies. Kids don't need to have sweets all the time. Popcorn, you can make your own flavored popcorn. You can shake cinnamon and sugar inside a bag. You can buy it flavored, but
You can do whatever you want.
you can
And
do
the,
whatever
and the
you
point
want.
of this is that we
Sure,
did this, we just went to the store and got this. So again, we want to hear more from you. We want to hear tweets on questions, suggestions, and also recipes that we can bring here on the show. I want to thank everybody at home for joining us. Don't forget to tune in next time when we share another story. And until then, I want to let you know that, again, there's always hope. Never give up. And we will see you next time on the Dr. Rob Show. Thank you.
Thanks, Emil.